Tam here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's so nice that you are here. So the wonderful people over at Arteza were ever so kind to me and sent me a huge box of their acrylics paint. Look at those beautiful colors. It's filled with just an astounding array of beautiful colors. And I thought today I could try some out, because lately I have been really into painting more with acrylics and doing these intuitive, expressive portraits. They're a little bit different from my more usual paintings that you see me do, which are more kind of the illustration kind. And I tend to use less acrylics and more sort of water-soluble or water-based supplies like water-soluble crayons and water-soluble pencils and those kind of things, and inks as well. So anyway, here you see me looking through the entire big box of Arteza acrylics, and I was really pleased to find out that they had so many different kinds of colors in this box set. I really like how they have so many different shades of all the different colors in this large box set by Arteza. I was very excited to see all the variety. You know, different types of greys, different types of purples, different types of greens, different kinds of reds and browns. All of it's in there. Really great. But for my painting today, I obviously won't be able to utilize or use all the colors as much as I'd love to. So after I sketch my painting or my portrait, you'll see that I use mostly purples, blues, pinks and reds of this acrylic set. So I'm getting ready now to sketch a portrait, and for these intuitive, expressive portraits, what I like to do is I like to challenge myself to sketch my portrait with a non-erasable pencil. So this is a water-soluble pencil, but you can't erase it. So this can be a bit scary for some people. But it's also quite freeing, because you have to just keep scribbling. So if there's a mistake, or you think, oh no, that's not quite right, instead of erasing it, you just have to kind of make a different mark. And that can be quite an interesting and different way of creating a painting. Now, many of you will know my other painting style that I might be more known for, which is my sort of more illustration style when I do my whimsical characters. And I also have other styles like paint over collage and all sorts of other ways. But this is one of my favorite I have painted, I suppose, like this before, but it's lately really come to the forefront, and I just find myself constantly wanting to create what I call an expressive, intuitive, painterly or expressive or kind of less tight and looser portraits. So for this particular one, I, as you can see, first drew a face in a kind of loose, scribbly, sketchy style. And this, as I said before, this is a non-erasable pencil. So this is actually, I think this is a water-soluble pencil. So very soon you'll see me starting to add water to it, and that then activates the water-soluble pencil. I think it's a Derwent pencil, actually. And creating this way for me helps me really loosen up and be more expressive and scribbly and free. I may have said the word free already. Then the other way that I sometimes create, and I have to say I love both ways of creating, or all the ways of creating, of course, because I just love creating in general. However, I have also mentioned before, and possibly if you've been on courses of mine, you'll also know or have heard me say that there sort of lives inside of me both an illustrator and a painter. And the illustrator loves the tighter and cleaner lines, and the painter in me likes the more expressive and looser lines. So yes, there's these two sides to me, and I like to now kind of bring them together and kind of call myself a hybrid. A painter-illustrator hybrid. A painter-strator. Now, is that a word? An illuster. Anyway, you get the point. I'm a hybrid of some sort. So lately I've been embracing my expressive, intuitive, looser inner painting a bit more, and she's coming to the forefront, and she loves painting with acrylics a bit more. And here you can see her picking out the acrylics colors she's wanting to work with. So on portraits like this, when I don't work with such an amazing range of acrylic colors, I like to pick a couple of blues, reds, maybe an orange and a brown, and some different skin tone colors. And then I tend to mix some purples myself. But here I have been provided with such amazing range of colors that I'm picking out a purple or a lilac-y type color as well. As you can see on the right here, there, that pile is all the colors I'm going to play with. And so you can see it's got some purples in there, light blues, it's a bit of an ochre, yellowy color, brown, white, and gray. These are all helpful colors to use when you're creating portraits. But it depends on what kind of portrait you're creating. You might be creating a different skin tone, or you might be creating non-realistic skin tones. In my world, all of this is all possible. So I often end up with faces that have no actual realistic skin tone anyway. Anywho, long chats about colors, and here we go. The beloved squirting out of paint from the tubes. It's such a satisfying experience, isn't it? Okay, so I do tend to use quite a bit of white in paintings like this, and also not lots of black, but some black, definitely. So I'll be mixing colors up, and it will be layering and using sort of broad brush strokes as well as smaller ones and tighter ones. So, okay, so this is the point where I'm starting to add paint, and I suddenly realized just now that actually the pencil I used wasn't even water soluble. So sometimes I use water soluble pencils and sometimes completely non-water soluble ones. So as you can see here, it doesn't activate. It's like it totally depends on what mood I am in or what pencil is laying nearby. When you use water soluble pencils, it can be cool because you can see, your pencil activates, and you can utilize that as part of the shading. But this time I literally use a non-water soluble one, which is also very cool. It just like lays down your basic design, and then with the paint you really start to add the dimension and depth and shading to the face. So sometimes I start with my darkest parts, and sometimes I start with the lighter parts. And in this case I started with the lighter parts, as you can see, and I mix the colors up a bit, and I apply the brushstrokes super kind of slapdashily, which is an Eddie Izzard term, but basically loosely and non-precisely. And then very quickly here, well, this is obviously time-lapse now, but basically then I'll start to add very basic and rough dark or medium tones. And I encourage myself, I like to be really free and loose with this, as you can see. And the more loose and free I am with it, the more expressive it becomes. And I kind of work intuitively. I intuitively as in I react to what I'm seeing on the page. I do use reference photos as well for just making sure I know where the shading is. But when it comes to what I want to do element-wise and what kind of changes or effects I want to create, I tend to react intuitively. So I'm not simply following a reference photo. I might want to, change where she's looking, or she might be looking another way, or there might be all sorts of things going on that I then think, oh, that's cool, I'm going to enhance that or take that away. And that is very much an intuitive, reactive, or dialoguing type process. So all the while, I continue to try and add darks and lights and details. I will vary the types of brushes I'm using. So what you can't see because it's going quite fast here is I'm working with different sized brushes. Some, you can see one lying on the right there, some quite fine brushes, and some are thicker brushes, and I'm alternating the brushes also so that I get different stroke brush strokes, different styles. I'll also be playing with, sometimes I use a method called scrubbing, so times will be scrubbing so I get more of a blending happening, and at other times I like to keep the brush strokes really untouched so you get that real kind of effect of, oh, this is a clear brush stroke, which I like as well. And while I create portraits like this, is I also kind of just experiment and play around. I might add color somewhere, then think, no, that's too much, I'm going to take it away. As you can see here, I'm kind of muting it back. Or I might want a enhance or bring back a certain color, a darker or a lighter skin tone. And basically, while I make a portrait like this, it just keeps being a kind of a playful conversation with myself and the painting. So yes, playful conversation. So here I'm using a larger brush. This is actually a Shilpa brush. This is Artsy Shilpa. She makes cool brushes that you can check out as well. Look her up. Artsy Shil is her name. And yeah, so again, I'm kind of continuing now with bringing in lights, and so I do that with the whites there, mixing it in with some of the reds and the pinks to create different bits of skin tone. And as you can see, I continue to kind of apply the brush strokes in a loose way rather than in a more tight way that I do on my other style work. Ooh, it's hair time. So hair time here, I think, yeah, I went for purples and blues because they were on my palette. And so while I'm here, well, of course, she reminds me now a little bit of Venus. You know, Venus, that Venus statue in the oyster? But is it Botticelli who did it? It reminds me a bit of that. But anyway, that wasn't the inspiration. But yeah, so while I'm working, I'm kind of obviously paying attention to what the Arteza acrylics paint are like, and I really like them, other than the smell. And the smell is a little bit, they smell a bit wall painty. I don't know why other paints don't smell like that, but other than the smell, I really like the colors. I like the opacity, is that a word? Opaque. So they cover the layers really well. They're not too transparent, or they're not meant to be fluid acrylics. I think they're heavy body. So there's nice consistency is what I'm trying to say. They cover the previous layers nicely where I need them to. The colors are vibrant and interesting. I can mix them nicely. So I'm happy with the Arteza acrylics and the variety of colors as well. Although, of course, I'm working with a small range at the moment, but I'm using actually quite a few of their colors. So yeah. Now, and then what started to happen with this face is as you can see, I'm building it up more and more, and I'm starting to add smaller details, but I'm leaving the smaller details still in the forms of brush strokes. So I'm not trying to go for kind of super realistic skin so that it looks like it's not painted. So, you know what I mean? I want to keep that painterly look. That's what I like. That's what I'm going for here. And in the meantime, I'm also starting to think about background and what I want to do with the rest of this page. For me, it's always really, I love portraits, but I do like when they have a sort of a story or mystery going on, either on their bodies in the form of like tattoos or extra doodles that don't make sense there. Like, as many of you know, I like to add, I don't know, little houses on a shoulder or a cat in a hair, or let's see what that said. Oh, found it. So one of the collage pieces, I had the words "not afraid" on it, and it felt really relevant to where I was in my life right there and then. So I wanted to include it on the painting, and it's been titled "Not Afraid" now as well. So I often react again intuitively to maybe found words, found poetry in collage pieces, or, it's a really great way of sort of getting sort of messages from your higher self, or accessing your subconscious, or something like that. So Not Afraid became kind of a theme for this painting. For me, I also felt that this girl had a look in her eye that was a bit obviously apprehensive. However, there was sort of something about, but I'm here, I'm afraid, but I'm not afraid, but I'm not, I'm somewhat like apprehensive, but I'm here anyway. So it's like not afraid meant she was either saying that, I like what I'm doing with the hair here. Sorry, I'm watching this back and now doing the voiceover. So not afraid. And anyway, so I'm thinking about the background and the hair, so I'm adding some collage pieces. I love adding book pages and music scores and all these kind of things. It makes painting always really interesting to me. That's a brayer and some white gesso, so I'm kind of adding a layer of grunge. The grunge is always fun to kind of add depth and interest to your painting. So, with the hair, I liked how what I did with that, but I'm kind of muting it back now. So, while I'm creating this, I'm thinking, what am I going to kind of add to this painting in terms of other symbols or shapes? And I made this painting while the news of the Amazon was very prominent on Facebook and on the news. And that was really on my mind, and I've been really worried about it. So suddenly I thought, well, let's include a tree, perhaps, of some sorts. And so I was excited by the idea of a tree, but also didn't want it to become too crazy on the page. And anyway, I played around with it and then realized that the branches, could go over her head, and then they look like veins. And also it's part of the hair. And kind of started liking how, the tree was kind of going over her forehead, and that they become almost one. So the tree and the person are one and the same thing. And veins, of course, are what gives us our life, as in the blood is going around our bodies. And trees are also what give us life. So suddenly I found the symbolism really cool. And then I wanted to make sure that the tree came forward a bit. So I then thought, okay, maybe I put a cool pattern of some sorts kind of behind the tree on her hair. Anyway, I think I stopped with that for a bit and worked a little bit more on her face in the betwixty times. Sorry, it's 2 a.m. here at the moment, and I'm enjoying doing the overlay, the voiceover for myself, even though no one in this moment in time is listening. But maybe you will be later and find it as amusing as I am. I do. So I think I decide later to do more of the white patterning. But at this point, I am getting into doodly mode, and I love doodling and adding symbolism and symbols that are meaningful to me. My meaningful symbols are quirky, weird flowers, quirky, weird houses, little swirly twig-like branches, as you can see there. And I also like adding butterfly wings, but I'm not sure if this painting is getting butterfly wings. Maybe later. So here I'm deciding with a Posca pen to add more of that white patterning, because it wasn't so easy to do with that stencil. And as you can see, it brings the tree really nicely forward. Now, the very interesting thing was that once I started sharing this painting on Instagram and on Facebook, etc., people started seeing the tree as if it looked like a hand as well, and I had not intended it to look like a hand at all. And then I suddenly could see it as well, and that added another layer and dimension of symbolism, that it was a hand that was a tree, and the veins and the branches were also the veins that went over her face. She was connected to the trees. Really, it for me felt like something that I was connected with around, we are reliant on nature. We are not, we cannot be without nature, or something along those lines, and we are part of it. We are one with it, without us necessarily knowing that we are. But that's kind of where this was starting to go. And like I said, it isn't a very conscious process. So I don't start off going, I'm making a girl with a tree about the Amazon. It wasn't like that. What started happening was that I just started realizing, oh, this is probably what's been on my mind and wanted to have a voice of some sorts. So the Not Afraid also was added to her forehead in response to that piece of collage. And I like the Not Afraid as well in relation to, how to react to the current climate crisis and how the Amazon is burning and all these problems are there. Oh, there's the butterfly wing. Yay! So something about not being afraid to stand up or to help solve the problem. Something like that. Yeah. Now, and I left the background mostly sort of grayish white with some of the collage pieces quite prominently still shining through. And then I put stars there with kind of constellation type lines or marks, implying again that everyone and everything is connected. That we are all dependent on each other, on nature, and that one thing doesn't exist without the other. We're all deeply interconnected, all part of one big unit of something, or of energy, of life, of existence. And it's such an important thing to remember, that we are not a singular thing or being. We are deeply dependent on each other and connected to each other. So, coming to the end of this little time-lapse video now. I hope you enjoyed watching me create this and listen to me waffle on about what it is that I was doing here. And if you enjoyed this session, this YouTube session with me today, do please come check out my classes on www.willowing.org. I run many art classes that I'd love to have you join, should you want to learn more from me. And also do make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and even you can click that little bell, that ding clicky thing there. That means that if you every time I upload a new video, you'll get notified. Isn't that very cool? Very cool. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and I hope to see you again soon for another episode on YouTube. And P.S. please do follow me on Instagram, by the way. That is where I do most of my updates, and are most up to date, as in I tend to share on there quite frequently. I love that as a platform there. Also love YouTube, of course, but they on Instagram it's a little bit more bite-sized, and we do stories there, and I do updates on my feed, and I'll also do little time-lapse videos there as well in the IG stories. Hope to see you there as well. Hope to connect with you there as well. Okay, everyone, well, thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate that you are here, and for any comments or likes you are leaving. I really deeply appreciate your engagement and interest, as that is what we do it all for. Sending you much love, and hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.